Okay, we'll call the meeting to order. Welcome everyone to our Williamsport City Council meeting. It's Thursday, July 11th. We are in Trade Transit 2, third floor. Please rise for the invocation by Councilman Vincent Delizzi, followed by the flag salute.
Heavenly Father, we come before you tonight, grateful for you having placed us in a position to help affect positive growth with our city. We ask you for your guidance and wisdom as we navigate the complexities of local governance. Grant us the patience to listen attentively to the needs of our community and the wisdom to make decisions that will benefit us. Protect us from the distractions of national politics that we may seek to focus on the important local issues at hand. Help us to support and encourage each other in our responsibility. May we all recognize the necessity of difficult decisions and the importance of unity in creating a sustainable and vibrant community. Above all, we pray for harmony and cooperation. May our collective efforts be guided by your love and grace, leading to a city of justice, compassion, and prosperity. In your name we pray. Amen. Amen.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Item 3, approval of city council meeting minutes from June 20th, 2024. Is there a motion and a second?
Move.
Motion and a second. Any comments or questions on the minutes? Here you can see Mrs. Frank on item 3.
Mr. Allison.
Yes.
Mr. Mackey.
Yes.
Mr. Pelisi.
Yes.
Mrs. Cat. Yes. Mr. Ryder.
Yes.
Mr. Young.
Yes. Motion passes 6-0. Item 4, limited courtesy before we get a request tonight. We jump into item 5. We have an appointment for the River Valley Transit Authority Board. Gallagher from Woodland Ave, appointed to replace Marshall Wells for a 5-year term beginning July 11th, 2024, ending December 31st, 2027. Excuse me. So motion in a second.
So move.
Second.
Motion in a second. Very slaughter keeping service.
President Gilbert, Vice President Ryder, members of council administration. We have before you for consideration this appointment to our RTA board of Steve Gallagher. Steve comes with extensive professional experience and volunteer experience. She's been on a number of different boards, a lot of experience throughout her career. I think that she would be a great asset. She's also been assisting a little bit with our DCNR grant. And she lives out East End, so she's very interested in strong part in that side of town. So she's been working with us on that, with some of the public ideas related to our infrastructure plan, our comprehensive park plan. But just brings a wealth of knowledge to our MTA board. And, we're looking forward and thankful to whoever stepping up to volunteer in this role. And of course, she's here to the other questions.
Thank you, Mayor Slaughter. Welcome and thank you for being here. Thank you for stepping up. Don't believe we had a conversation about your candidacy in committee this week. Typically what we do, if there's a need and interest, maybe to have a little bit of an informal conversation about it. If you're interested in, maybe tell us a little bit about your background formally, what maybe drew you to put your name forward to serve on the board. That would be super helpful and appreciated.
Absolutely. Good evening. I have about 30 years of experience in the banking industry, and the position that Marshall is vacating was focused more on the financial side with our RVTA. Additionally, I have posted that amount of time in the nonprofit world, guiding Special Olympics, both in World Games and National Games on site. I have spent a number of years on boards, Special Olympics Delaware, also the American Cancer Breast Foundation. So I have a strong desire to be able to help others, to be in the community, to help them engage, and to be able to have their input in order to be able to make things better for folks in the long run.
Thank you very much. Does anybody have any questions? The only thing that sticks out for me, I know there's been a few people that have turned over at the board level since we established this a couple of years ago. And I don't know this for sure. My hunch is probably a combination of just, probably more workload than they might have been expecting. Given the newer nature of the authority, it's only, 2 years in existence, in infancy. There's been a number of things related to that transition process out of the city and it becoming its own entity. I'm sure there's still some continued kind of fallout from the investigation from the federal and state level that they're dealing through and all of that kind of stuff. So, I mean, speak to me maybe a little bit about, are you prepared for what I expect is a substantial time commitment in serving in this capacity? You kind of work through any of that kind of stuff. Any kind of conversations with existing board members in that capacity would be critical to understand.
Yeah, absolutely. So when I had volunteered for this, I set up time and had a meeting with Todd, right?
Nice.
The executive director, and additionally, the president of the board, Noah Bauer.
Mm.
And so we had a conversation about the health of the organization,
Okay.
about the health of the board, about what the future plans were, went through the strategic plan, understood what the status was from when it was originally established and where they were today. So, yes, I understand the complexities and what's involved when we move forward. Maybe a blessing and a curse for me is that I'm retired. So I have time on my hands to be able to delve in and to be able to contribute, to move that forward.
And one final question, any kind of formal training you may have been through or experienced in deploying ethics, whether it's training, that kind of stuff. And I say that I feel confident in the group of board members we have and our leadership over there, but I think that's something that we don't want to forget about. And I think having a little bit of extra lens in that would be valuable. So any kind of experience in that?
Yes. So coming from the world of banking, I worked for Bank of America and part of that MBA for that for Sally Knight for 30 years. And you are required to take annual ethics classes. Additionally, we have additional training that we would attend. I also ran the employee engagement for the division that I was in for technology and trying to ensure that the folks within the division understood and supported and lived the ethics.
Awesome. Appreciate that. And like I said, I think they're on a pretty good track. Since we've kind of broken them off, but that exposure and experience is nice to have regardless of the circumstances, in my opinion. So I'm pleased to hear. Thank you. Any other? To mimic Mayor Slaughter, I appreciate you stepping up and serving in this capacity. This is a pretty important one. RVTA has a pretty big impact on the health of our community. So we want to see it successful and appreciate your efforts that are going to be deployed in the future to make it successful. Mr. Allison.
I think you're exactly the kind of candidate that I think we envisioned and that we wanted to have on the RVTA board. But of course, once we handed it over, we're out of the mix. But yeah, very pleased to see that you step forward and volunteering to do an important job.
I appreciate that.
Any other final comments, questions? Thank you for stepping up. Thank you for being here. We appreciate it. Mrs. Franklin, the vote, right in line, please.
Mr. Allison,
Yes.
Mr. Mackey,
Yes.
Mr. Pelisi,
Yes.
Mrs. Katz. Yes. Mr. Biden,
Yes.
Mr. Yoder.
Yes, motion passes 6-0. Thank you again, and congratulations. All right, we'll move to item 6 with a public hearing, conditional use. This is a in favor, not right. Refresh me on the Boston public hearing, both of this procedurally. Open it up, speaking in favor, speaking against.
Exactly. Well, given Mr. Vaughn opportunity.
Correct.
I'll explain what it is. You have open it up, anybody who's in favor and against. Closing none. All right, awesome. Thank you. So I will open the public hearing. Mr. Nar.
Good evening, sir. Welcome. Good evening, President Yoder, Vice President Fire, and members of council. What we present to you tonight is a public hearing request from Central PA Real Estate Investment LLC to locate a retail facility at 555 Campbell Street. In accordance with Article 13330528, a retail facility within the RU residential zoning district requires a conditional use. What that is saying that it is something that is permitted. It requires requires council to make approval, gives council the ability to put reasonable conditions and standards on that. As part of a conditional use, you are required to have a conditional use hearing, which will allow basically the general public to come up and speak for it or against it. Legally, we advertise in accordance with the sunshine law. That has been done. I have documentation for that. The property has been posted. And at this point in time, like I said, I can answer your questions, or we can open it up to the general public who may or may not have questions or concerns for that. And then we'll actually go through once you close the hearing, then in another time we'll come up and I will explain more in detail the conditional use that will give you the ability to put those conditions and standards in place.
So is there anybody from the public that wishes to speak in favor of the conditional use? We'll work for them first. Okay. Seeing nobody, is there anybody that wishes to speak against the conditional use? Seeing none from that either. Anything you want to close out with, Gary? Okay. I will close the public hearing then. Thank you, Gary. We'll move to item 7, a separate public hearing for a liquor license. So we open up the public hearing for the liquor license. Gary, would you kick us off?
Yes, what we have is a request from Wawa Corporation to transfer restaurant liquor license number R2557 into the city. It currently is maintained out at Wolf Township. As part of the requirement, it requires a resolution and goes through council for approval. And again, it's the same type of situation. It's a public hearing, allows those people to either come and speak for or against the transfer of the license from Wolf Township into the city for the Wawa, which will be located at 164 Main Street.
Thank you, Gary. So I'll open the floor for anybody in the public hearing that would like to speak in favor of the liquor license. Please, welcome, state your name for the record.
Hi there, how's everyone? My name is Ellen Freeman. I'm an attorney with Flaherty and O'Hara. I represent Wawa Inc. with respect to this request this evening. So if you don't have any objections, I have about a 5-minute presentation on their operations. I also have a floor plan that I can pass out to let everyone know what it'll look like within the store. But as was mentioned, we are requesting a resolution which would approve a liquor license transfer from Wolf Township into the city. This is pursuant to the liquor code, Title 461B3. This liquor license will be used at their new location, which is construction has already started to begin at 164 Maynard Street. Now, this wouldn't be Wawa's first endeavor into the liquor industry. They have 31 other approved liquor licenses in Pennsylvania. 29 of those liquor licenses are being operated currently in the state. And that means that 29 locations are selling beer to go, with a couple of those locations also selling wine to go. Wawa also, as you probably know, has hundreds of stores in both Virginia and Florida that both have liquor licenses. So they have a number of years under their belt with respect to the sale of alcohol and other restricted products. At the 29 stores in Pennsylvania, I'm always pleased to report that they have a perfect record with respect to their operations of a liquor license, meaning that they have no sales to any visibly intoxicated person and no sales to minors. So they have a very clean record. I think that's largely based on their experience in other states and their focus on the safety policies that they put in place at each of their stores. So even though it is not required, Wawa has a 100% carding policy. So no matter what your age, what you look like, you're going to be asked for identification to show proof of age. And in addition to that, they have extensive training that they go through. Before the store even opens, all of the Wawa employees that are going to be working at that store go through the Wawa internal training, which also includes the responsible alcohol management program, which is state mandated. All of the associates that will sell alcohol within the store will be at least 18 years of age. And before they can even get to a register that sells alcohol, they do have to go through the internal training program. So even if they start 6 months after the store opens, before they can sit at the register, they will have to go through that training. So that ensures that the associates know what they're doing once they get up there. In addition to that, of course, there will be security cameras throughout the premises that are going to be capturing all the sales of alcohol. It will be focused on the alcohol product in the coolers, as well as what is locally located as their beer cave, which is a refrigerated room that you can actually walk into and grab product. There will be a camera in there that monitors that at all times. This store is slated to be open 24/7. However, alcohol sales will be limited. Those limited hours will be Monday through Saturday from 7 a.m. to 2 a.m. with wine sales ending at 11 p.m. and Sunday from 9 a.m. to 2 a.m. with wine sales ending at 11 p.m. There's also a limitation on how much a person can purchase at Wawa. So an individual can come in and purchase 192 fluid ounces of beer, which is roughly 2 6-packs to go, and 3,000 milliliters of wine, which is roughly 4 standard bottles of wine. If any customer wanted to purchase more than that, they would have to take their purchased product out to their vehicle and then come back in and make a second transaction. With that, I will pass out the floor plan just so you guys can take a look at it and show you where some of the features of the store will be.
Yeah.
100%.
So this is obviously just the preliminary floor plan. There could be, subject to minor changes, especially if we are approved this evening. There is a secondary approval process with the Liquor Control Board who will do their own investigation. But what you're looking at here is the seating area is off to the right. When you enter into the vestibule, there will be seating for 30, which is actually a nice feature in some of these stores. Wawa obviously has a vast menu, breakfast, lunch, and dinner. So this gives patrons an opportunity to eat in the seating area versus in their car, which is what people normally do. And then to the left of that will be where the registers are. And to just the immediate south of the seating area is that walk-in beer cooler, which is typically known as the beer cave. With that, in closing, I would just like to put on the record that Wawa certainly understands the sensitive nature of selling alcohol. They also have an incredible reputation in Pennsylvania. I am from the western side of the state, so we don't have a lot of Wawa stores. However, I hear all the time, especially at these meetings, that people go and they feel very possessive over their Wawas in their neighborhood. And that's something that Wawa certainly would not want to jeopardize that reputation here in the city or anywhere else within Pennsylvania or the other states that they operate by selling alcohol in a haphazard manner. So, they welcome certainly any feedback from the city and the residents here, but they do feel confident that the policies that they have in place are working at the other stores to ensure a safe operation. Thank you.
Are there any other members of the public who wish to speak in the affirmative for the liquor license? Anybody in the public who wishes to speak against the liquor license? All right, anything to close with, Mr. Nark? We'll close the second public hearing. We'll move to item 11, Mrs. Frank.
Resolution of the city of Williamsport, Upcoming PA, approving the transfer of the liquor license number R-257 by Wawa Incorporated from Wolf Township into the city of Williamsport.
Is there a motion and a second?
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second, Mr. Nar. You can just hang out there the last three.
At this point, again, I have nothing to add to legally advertise under the sunshine law. We had no comments or questions from the general public. And that's why I
Appreciate it, Mr. Nar. Any comments or questions on the resolution? We have representatives from the developer and from Wawa here. if there's any questions on, their comments, as well as just the size of the project, that kind of thing, they sure will be willing to answer them. Any kind of questions, Mrs. Katz?
This might sound like a stupid question, but this is a takeout for beer or wine. But they also have dining. Is there a law against if you bought a beer or wine that you couldn't sit in the dining room?
I believe, and leave what I think I need to refer to her, I believe that they do, that's part of the liquor license itself, that they have the ability to sit in and consume a certain amount of it. But I'll let the attorney speak with that.
That's a great question, and I skipped over that, so thank you for bringing that up. So Wawa does allow for on-premises consumption. Per the Pennsylvania Liquor Control Board's policy, because they operate a restaurant liquor license, they're required to have it as an allowance. What they're also allowed to do is limit that. So Wawa has a policy in place that you are only permitted to consume 1 12-ounce malted brew beverage in that seating area. You have to purchase it first. And they've strategically, if you look at the floor plan there, they've put the seating area in a manner that the associates at the registers have a direct view of that seating area. So part of the internal training are for the associates to be able to monitor that seating area and notice if someone does open up a can of beer after purchasing it in order to ensure that that one beer policy is maintained. There's also some signage there. We've talked to a bunch of the stores that have been open and operating with this policy. It's very, very rare you ever see anyone consuming any alcoholic beverages in that area. There's not much to keep you entertained for a long time in that seating area, unless you're a people watcher. So they found it's very easy to maintain. They've had no issues with it, fortunately, but all the associates are trained on how to de-escalate a situation if someone were to open up that second can of beer.
Thank you very much. And we can't wait till it opens.
Any other comments or questions on the resolution from all of us? Okay, here you see none, Mrs. Frank, on item 11, please.
Mr. Allison.
Yes.
Mr. Mackey.
Yes.
Mr. Pelisi.
Yes.
Mrs. Katz.
Yes.
Mr. Biden.
Yes.
Mr. Yoder.
Yes, motion passes 6-0. Thank you very much. Let's jump down to item 20, land development, at the corner of First and Maynard Street for Chick-fil-A. Is there a motion in a second?
So moved.
Motion in a second, Mr. Nard.
Good evening, President Yoder, Vice President Biden, members of council. What I bring before you is a land development and subdivision request from FanFest 835 LLC. The current land use is a vacant lot. It is located within the CC zoning district. The proposed plan is to subdivide the parcel into 2 lots. Lot 1 will contain 2.19 acres and lot 2 will contain 2.04 acres. Access will be provided via 3 different areas. Entrance and exit via Maynard Street, from First Street, and from the Wire Road Drive, which is down by the Sheets and Wendy's facility. The proposed land development will be to construct a 5,197 square foot restaurant with 79 seating capacity. It'll have 112 off-street parking with landscaping. Both parcels will have the ability, this will be served by public sewer and water. There will be will serve letters. I do currently have the will serve letters for them. I know there was a question in county's review, and we'll get to that. The plan was being reviewed by the city engineer, Eric Smith, all the stormwater authority, and both of those letters, we do have consistency letters for those 2 items. Plan was reviewed by Lycoming County Planning and made a recommendation for your approval. I have attached a copy of the comments. The comments that you have, all of those comments have been sufficed, have been completed. And the plans that you have before you are the actual plans that will be recorded, providing city council everything this evening. I ask that a condition be granted by city council, that we receive a conditional letter by the city engineer and stormwater authority. However, we do already have that, so that's one of the conditions that the planning commission had recommended. The NPDS approval granted prior to permitting, that's still an ongoing process because of the development of the whole area. We don't want to hold things up, so that is still being reviewed, and that sometimes comes back and is reviewed by the city engineer, Eric Smith. But the Bureau of Codes will not issue any permits until we have an approved NPDS permit. So that is the condition that we would like to put on that. And obviously, in the landscaping, there was that one of the identities of the species was burning bush, which is an invasive species, which they agreed to pull out from the land development plan. They were the only conditions that planning didn't put on that. Again, it was reviewed by county, reviewed by planning. I do have representatives here, and I can answer any questions that you may have.
Thank you. Do you need us to amend this to reflect the conditions you referenced, or are we?
You know, I just wanted to let you be aware that planning and put them in there. The only two that I'm asking for is obviously, the only one I'm asking for is the NPDS. That's the only condition.
But you don't need us to amend this to reflect that condition you're asking for, you that were written here.
So I just want to let you know that's what planning had recommended, but the only recommendation at this point today is the NPDS approval granted prior to issuing any additional permits.
Any comments or questions on the land development? We have an updated timeline on when we expect this development to be completed and open.
I would leave that to the developers. We are still, I believe, in the phase of finalizing the building permit side of it. But again, the NPDS permit is in the process of moving forward. So we're at that stage of it. And again, the Wawa, actually, they will be pouring their foundation, which will be the adjacent property next to it, both owned by Manifest. So I do not believe there's a specific timeline at this point in time.
If one of you were able to speak to, even if it's a high level timeline of what you're targeting, I think it would be helpful to understand. Welcome, both of you. It's good to see you.
Good evening, Council. How are you guys?
Good. How are you?
Good, good. Nice to be here. Both John and I and our team and Chad Stafford back there from our side. I think it was December of 22 when we met here. With all of your support, we made some commitments to hopefully develop that area in what is fortunately coming to fruition. Wawa is very excited, and I will tell you, we are ahead of schedule from most of their developments throughout their network. So their plan is to hopefully be open before sometime in December or sooner. And we are also, because of the support and cooperation, Gary and everyone in your team are able to work hopefully expeditiously with the Chick-fil-A development, and might make the same timeline, hopefully, but if not, beginning of the first quarter latest.
Okay. Gotcha. That's awesome news.
Sure. So we're really excited.
Vice versa. Be there twice a week. Any other comments or questions on the land development? But I'm excited to see this go through. Bonnie, this is Cass.
Just want to thank you again for what you're putting for us today. I think everybody's excited about it, and you're putting a lot of money into our area, which is really, really nice.
Well, we appreciate that. Please thank yourselves also for giving us the chance and putting basically the money to what we believe is good use. And I think it'll pay huge dividends for what the mayor's plans are. What the community here wants to have done. I think we're achieving this point. Right.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions on the land development? Here to see none, then Mrs. Frank, what item 20?
Mr. Allison.
Yes.
Mr. Matthew.
Yes.
Mr. Pelisi.
Yes.
Mrs. Katz. Yeah. Mr. Biden.
Yes.
Mr. Yoder.
Yes, motion passes 6-0. Again, both of you, thank you very much. Excited to see this come to fruition, very much so. Item 21, we have a conditional use of 555 Campbell Street. Is there a motion in a second? So moved.
Second.
Motion in a second, Mr. Bernard.
Good evening again. What we present to you is, so we previously had a public hearing regarding a conditional use. What we have is Central PA Real Estate Investment LLC is looking at locating a retail facility at 55 Campbell Street. It is within the RU zoning district. It is across from Fire Tree. The previous uses that were there were probably several hair salons, small types of facilities in that area. What the developer is looking at doing is putting a small retail facility. They will have, obviously, they'll have parking, and I do have a representative here that's going to speak that you may know, that will address basically what all the planning to do with the property. Again, it will be a retail facility. They'll sell basically milk, eggs, those type of things that you can in a convenience store. You do have a set of plans for you. Their hours will be limited. It's not going to be open 24/7. Won't be open late at night. Won't be open late on the weekends. Mr. Girardi, those guys will address that. Who? Mr. Girardi and the representatives will address that. So basically, again, like I said, it's a part of the public hearing. It did go through planning. The only concern that planning had was, or questions was as far as not just the parking, but coming in and out. They both have currently existing entrances and exits. They will comply with the with the zoning code as far as egress and stuff in and out of the building. And at this time, I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Girardi, and he can give the brief presentation.
Mr. Girardi, welcome back, sir.
President Governor remembers again. It's different being on this side.
You sure? Welcome, sir. Good to see you.
Yes. What we're trying to achieve is they want to put in a convenience store at this location. We tried to dress up the property a little bit. What we're doing is providing 2 new street trees. Those street trees aren't at all in that area. It's on a corner. There's also the dumpsters in the back. Planning Commission recommended that we put a dumpster around the provision so you can't see it, which is in the ordinance. We're providing 5 parking stalls, with stall number 2 being handicap accessible. There's 2 entrances presently in this area. What we're doing is on Memorial Avenue, we're providing an entrance in and out. And one coming out on Campbell Street, it's going to be right turn exit home. Okay, we're not allowing anybody into that area, so if you come out on Campbell, you must take a right hand turn. The reason why we're doing it one way in and both ways in and out of Memorial is because stall number 5, see different in the back out and then go out on Memorial Avenue. We're also going to take the corner and put in a little planning area, about 100 square feet of it, to try to dress it up a little bit. I'm leaving all the green grass that's there now. And again, there's exterior lighting. There's 12 lights underneath the can. At nighttime, there'll be 6 left on it during the evening for visibility for individuals walking about, security and so forth. And putting planning around the building to try to dress it up a little bit, not changing the color of the building. And it's called City Garden. That'll be the name of it, using the exact same sign as there now. So if you have any questions of me, I'm more than happy to try to answer. We have a representative here or Neil.
See, thank you. Anything you'd like to add? I don't have anything up. My name is Tristan, and we are living in the city. So we recently bought a citizen in Williamsport, and we are very excited to increase our rights for space here on this property. We don't have all this money, and we don't like that. But it's good to us. Thank you. Welcome. We're glad you're here, and you're in good hands with Mr. Girardi.
I appreciate that. Thank you. And the hours are limited, as you see. If you look, I think it's on general load number 4 of Spain business hour.
Thank you. Comments and questions, Mrs. Katz?
Is Reynolds last day or you can train again?
It's going to remain.
That's really cool.
Yes.
Yeah, it's gonna be interesting to see how you set that up inside. Yeah, I'm looking at the challenges.
Any other comments or questions from members? I would just again say, welcome to the city. I know you're already a little established here, but we're glad you're here. We're glad to see you making something here for yourself, for your family, and making the city a better place. So need more people like you. Here you see none, then Mrs. Frank on item 21.
Mr. Allison,
Yes.
Mr. Mackey,
Yes.
Mr. Pelisi,
Yes.
Mrs. Katz. Yes. Ms. Mealy.
Yeah.
Mr. Ryder,
Yes.
Mr. Yoder.
Yes, motion passes 7-0. Thank you both again.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
We'll move to item 22, Mrs. Frank. certificate of appropriateness, 301 West Third Street. Is there a motion and a second?
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Nar, last one.
Last one. Good evening again. What we present to you, Jackass Brewery is going to be located at 301 West Third Street. They've already come in and applied for their building permits and are moving forward. I can tell you, I've been in it several times, and it's going to be a beautiful facility inside. What they're requesting is two sets of signs. Both signs, one is a 6 foot by 6 foot. You'll see there with the lettering saying Jackass Brewery Company. That will be on the western part of the wall off Third Street. So coming down Third Street in between APR there, you will be able to see that signage there. On Hepburn Street, you will see a 20 foot by 3 foot signage that says Jackass Brewery Company showing the directional sign into that area. Both of these signs basically, and because of it being within that zoning district, central business district requires a certificate of appropriateness. These are earth tone colors. We do have engineer stamp drawings for the building, for the signage structures themselves. And again, they're just merely requesting a certificate of appropriateness to move forward, and it does meet both the material as well as the earth tone type of colors that they are trying to adhere to. Thank you, Mr. Miller, and I do have a representative.
Anything you'd like to add, sir? Welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you for your investment in the city.
Well, and we appreciate it. It was absolutely intentional. We looked at 30 or 40 different locations across the state. And as Nathan White will attest to, we targeted Williamsport for several reasons. There is a sense of pride in this community that you don't see in other places. There's a sense of this is home, this is a place, this is my city, my town, and we wanted to be part of it. We wanted to contribute, which is why we chose Williamsport. As Nathan will attest, this was the first building I looked at. And I knew that it was it. And we are doing everything we can to honor the history of the building. For example, all of the wood flooring that you will see in the building when it's done, maybe next month, is original to the building. Where we had to take up floors, we saved the floors with extreme care and placed them. So all of the wood flooring is original to the building. We are using the rafters that we took out to make a stairwell for stairwell treads and such, assuming they will be adequate. One of the things that really touched me is former owner of the building, Herm Lowe. He gave me a brick that is signed by a construction worker that worked on the building that's dated October 26th, 1899.
That's awesome.
And the safest place for that brick, which my wife absolutely loves, is sitting in our kitchen table with two, not one, but two placemats under it to protect it. It has a name, I forget the name, but October 26th, 1899. We are going to feature that in the building to honor and pay homage to the history of it. We're working very hard to keep everything as original as possible.
We appreciate that. Sure. That's it. Yeah. It's a great piece of history. I'm excited to get down there whenever it's done and over. No, I mean, to see all of your hard work to Chris your land.
Yeah,
But
but it's a labor of love and passion. It's my life. I absolutely love it. And I'm glad to be a part of the community.
Thank you. We need to be hitting that one. We're talking about development too. That's a nice little secret sauce we have as far as just our community pride we have about a number of things. Certainly. And there's proof of it. Questions and comments, Mrs. Katz?
You take over the whole building.
Yes, that's right.
How many floors are you going to use?
Well, initially, we were only planning on using 2, but we're using all 4 floors plus the basement, plus the rooftop.
That was a big supply space.
It was it was a hair salon too. I've heard a lot about that. Yeah, we've had people come in and ask, I'm like, no, we don't do hair anymore. The project has grown in size, but we realized that one of the things with the 3rd and 4th floor, we're making it an event space for the community to gather. We're planning on holding various kinds of craft fairs, events, things like that. Our mission is we built the first brewery and we built this place to bring people together. And that's what we intend to do.
Thank you for doing this. I mean,
Thank you.
To me, that's the thing for city, and I think that's.
We're just a part of it. Our intent is to just be a small part of the revitalization
the growth that's going on within the city. We just want to do our part.
Thank you for that.
Thank you.
Any other comments or questions from members? I'd repeat that. Thank you for doing what you are. We're excited to have you.
I know that and I appreciate that.
Yeah, no, and I mean that, simply just being a good steward of what that building means, where it means.
It's history.
It's history, yeah, and that's harder to find than what I expected. So appreciate that.
Doing our part.
All right. Here to see no other comments or questions. Mrs. Franklin, vote for item 22.
Mr. Allison.
Yes.
Mr. Mackey.
Yes.
Mr. Pelisi.
Yes.
Mrs. Katz. Yes. Ms. Mealy. Mr. Ryder.
Yes.
Mr. Yoli.
Yes, yes, thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
We'll jump up to items 12 through 15. We'll start with item 12, Mrs. Frank.
Resolution authorizing an agreement for extra duty employment between Williamsport Bureau of Police and the Williamsport Cross Country.
Is there a motion in a second?
Second.
Second, Chief Snyder, welcome, sir. Good evening.
Thank you. How's everybody doing tonight?
Good, how are you?
Good. So I bring before you a resolution authorizing an agreement for extra duty employment between the Williamsport Bureau of Police and the Williamsport Cross Cutters, Cutting Edge Baseball LLC. Being that the Williamsport Cross Cutters Cutting Edge Baseball LLC conducts or operates business at a historic public field located within the limits of the city and desires a security measure. Police presence and service for all MLB draft employees. This authorization of this contract will permit the Williamsport Bureau of Police to act in an extra duty capacity to provide uniform police service for cross cutters. Baseball LLC. Extra duty service would be reimbursed. This is an extra duty service. And in no way will this interfere with any day-to-day operations of the Williamsport Police. So no interference with this extra duty. The contract that's attached to the resolution that was reviewed by also our citizens throughout. Questions that you may have.
Chief, Mr. Mackey, Public Safety.
Yeah, we reviewed this in public safety. The chief covered everything. Just one note, chief, about the rates. You will see in the resolutions, there are two different rates. That is the typo. There is only one rate. It's the 6684.
And I believe Janice sent out an updated.
Oh, okay.
But the only thing that changed, I believe, is that getting rid of that number, that typo.
Yes.
Right.
Just wanted to make that clear because I'm still not clear with you. But at any rate, yeah, now the chief covered this no cost to the city, fully reimbursed by the cross members. And you know, I'll look forward to the rest of public safety. This cast, you know.
Yes, I had somebody call me and they wanted to know, first of all, I heard about cases from the city money and it's those where you've got ideas. The one thing that they did ask, we're gonna have the police vehicle sitting there and the police officers are gonna be in uniform. They're getting paid $84 an hour and that's about peace.
Yes.
Okay, so that, and you want to have two of them there from what you discussed, at least two officers.
We'd rather have two, but at least one option.
Okay.
It's a work in progress. Gonna see how it works out. What's the best. And then I'll talk, discuss it with the right test for the cross cutting. That's the one they want.
And this is gonna be involved for 40 games.
40
I think Chief Paul gave the amount, how many games. Is there any cost or anything the city with the vehicles sitting there for the games? I think this was asked me, that's what I'm asking.
The vehicle is just to transport for the officers. And that's all it's so in the event that they have to leave, so priorities with the city. So in the event something happens in the city, they have a vehicle right there, they can respond. So like I said, primary duty for the Williamsport Police is to provide service to the city. This is an extra duty, but that does not trump our service to the city. So if anything happened or would take place in the city, then they're able to respond immediately. So that's why.
And I know you discussed this, but just it's for the public, that this has nothing to do, it's an extra job. It has nothing to do with the city. It won't affect their pension, it won't affect overtime or anything. And I'm just saying that for public knowledge.
That's all.
Right. I just want to be done here. Thank you, Chief.
Ms. Mealy.
Well, I would assume that the officers are working overtime as part of the city.
Yes,
Right, okay.
yes.
And I think they were beginning of.
To be clear, this is an extra duty, so it is an overtime pay, that's the rate that you're looking at. So the rate that we provided, 66.84, that's the rate to cover that. Because it's an extra duty and it's gonna be, or in, addition to a primary duties.
So Chief, if I may, if I understand this right, so let's say an officer works an 8-hour shift, right? If they're in hour 4 of their 8-hour shift, they're gonna get actually overtime pay for the time that they're covering that event because it's beyond the traditional scope of their job.
Yes,
And this rate will cover that cost. So there is no real cost to the city. If you really think about it, this is gonna, I mean, I would think, I mean, we'll see. This is a good thing. I'm excited to see where this goes because I think in theory, this should actually cover some of that base salary that they're already gonna be doing as a part of their job. So, well, is that understanding right, Chief?
so to understand, that officer is slotted to work 40 hours of work, 80 in a pay period. So this is on in addition to that.
Okay, so if they're doing this during their normal shift,
They will not be doing this during their long shift.
okay,
Are they signing up for this?
They're signing up.
Gotcha.
They're signing up,
There you go.
so they cannot do this in their assigned shift. So this is
Perfect.
actually,
so, and frankly, I mean, if they're doing this above and beyond and they're called out, I mean, it frankly, they're gonna get overtime from that anyway. There's actually there's less mobilization if you think about it for that extra support. I guess is another way to think about that, right?
And what, you know,
Yeah, I wasn't understanding it right either, so yeah, thank you for helping with that. Chief. Ms. Mealy, please.
But I would presume council that I'm not, this is an issue that they will be working with that question because they all want to seriously work. That's not an issue.
oh, yeah, it's on there.
Yeah. But the holiday rate versus other rates, there is no holiday.
Yeah, it's gonna be one rate of 66,000.
And and I would presume.
Well, it'll be the same. It'll be time and a half.
Yeah. So they time. Yeah. Okay.
When does this take effect?
Yeah.
Take effect today. So ironically,
Well, we've actually been providing this.
I was at the cross country game last night, and I interacted with the 2 officers up there, maybe I not remember their names, but what I see this as also is a great community outreach program as well. As they were doing more talking about this, than anything else, so just to have officers out there, presence, in a car, anything like that, it's much easier for an officer to just walk around the basement.
I appreciate that because we're getting the same response from the officers. We're getting the kids, the parents, all that.
It was great to see.
Yeah, and if I could piggyback on that, I mean, I had experience earlier this week of that, in my neighborhood, they're not just doing that there, they're, when they're able, I've noticed in my neighborhood a couple of times, they're getting out, they're interacting with people, by doing it in a little car. So that's happening across the city is my point, and it's, from what I've seen, it's good stuff, so I appreciate that expansion here.
That's a big deal to us, the department. We're trying to get out there and do more. Yeah. Bridge those gaps with the police department. Appreciate you.
Any other comments or questions? I'm interested to see where this goes and how this works. I mean, you and I have talked a little bit about this before, there's other scenarios where I could see if this is successful, in a number of ways. I look at financially first off, right? This may prove to be a good model for us in replicating this, that it's beneficial for us. So I'm anxious to see how this goes. I'd encourage us, and I know you will, Chief, to, let's keep an eye on kind of how this goes maybe for that first year, and if there's maybe tweaks we need to do to improve this, both for us, but also for other people in the office too. You need help from council in that regard, please just let's appreciate it. Thank you. Ms. Mealy.
Well, one of the things, I have never, in my council, seen the agreement like this. Is this the first time we've ever done it?
As far as I know, for Williamsport.
It was filled out by hand, but that must be the full form. But I could not.
So we sent changes to do a fill-in form, that first initial to get it
Yeah.
for council.
Can you speak a little bit to what you learned from Allentown?
Yeah, I actually reached out to Allentown PD, that they have our advocates, they're Marlin team and their jurisdiction. So reached out to their chief, asked if they had any type of agreement between their department and we have that advocate. He's ready to begin, got a contract, asked if he would also like to share it, send it over, we looked at it, provided it to Mr. White. It's good. And like I said, if this is something that we're going to continue to do, and it works out, I'd like to put this into a policy.
One thing is that might, in moving forward, we should build in some minor addition to the original. Yeah, I'm assuming what level of.
Per quarter.
So
it kind of puts us at the average for the officers that we have.
I would maybe encourage you to 23 intention / I mean, it's fine, but.
Yeah.
If we're doing it, if it winds up being, instead of it being.
Yeah.
Try to cover all of our.
Yeah, that was, I think, we get into this a year, let's kind of see how it works out, because I mean, to that point, this is not a full burden rate, right? There's, I think the cost is minimal, but like, wear and tear on the business are a little bit of fuel, like that pensions, that little kind of stuff. Let's see how this works out, but I would agree.
Good one.
Yeah. It's a good starting point, though. Yeah. Any other comments or questions? Hearing and seeing none, then Mrs. Franklin, item 12, please.
Mr. Allison.
Yes.
Mr. Mackey.
Yes.
Mr. Pelisi.
Yes.
Mrs. Katz. Yeah. Ms. Mealy. Mr. Biden.
Yes.
Mr. Yoder.
Yes, motion passes 7-0. We'll move to item 13.
Resolution authorizing MOU between the Williamsport Bureau of Police and the Lantern Foundation.
Is there a motion to second?
Second.
Motion to second, Chief Snyder.
Okay. I bring before you a resolution authorizing a memorandum of understanding, MOU between Williamsport Bureau of Police and the Lantern Foundation. So being that the city of Williamsport Bureau of Police is a law enforcement agency tasked with the investigation of criminal activity, including human trafficking and child sexual abuse material, also known as CCM. And with the Lantern Foundation located in Asheboro, North Carolina, is an organization that provides local law enforcement with training and assistance regarding the identification, investigation, and prosecution of crimes regarding human trafficking, child abduction, and child sexual abuse material. This authorization of this MOU between the Williamsport Bureau of Police and the Lantern Foundation would provide training for officers of the Williamsport Bureau of Police in the identification, investigation, and prosecution of crimes regarding human trafficking, child sexual abuse material, also known as CSAM. This MOU was reviewed by our sister Austin White as well, so I'll go for any questions. I also have some representatives here from the Lantern Foundation if you have any questions for them.
Mr. Mackey.
This was not reviewed in public safety. It was on the agenda, but I had a very short window of public safety. So,
Gotcha.
we focused on the things that are going to cost the city money. There's no financial cost to the city. So I will, I am curious, this seems to be a very similar organization to 15.
Yes.
So I guess I would be curious to know why are we doing both?
There's a collaboration between the two, so this is a little bit different, but I do have, thank you, rest here if you would like to talk to them. Thank you.
I mean, obviously, I don't have a problem with this. I just want to make sure that, I mean, you know, I'm on your website here. I see a lot of folks training with weapons. I mean, there's clearly, I mean, this lantern rescue, these people will clearly not be making any type of arrests or doing any type of law enforcement activity within the confines of the city.
No, they provide resources to law enforcement with genuine training.
Right.
So it's law enforcement that's executing and utilizing the weaponry and whatnot to affect the rest and make things happen. So this is to help bridge the gap between the lack of knowledge of what most domestic law enforcement agencies have right now. So we're looking to bridge that gap and give training to our officers so they are knowing what to go for at street level with interdiction or interaction with the community. So everybody has a tendency to think that this is like a movie taken or it's going to be the white man that comes in and scoops you off the street. There's so much more involved in the things like people trafficking, and then trying to tell, you know, most people would refer to it as child pornography, but we got away from that. I'll call it CCN and child sexual abuse with the training. It's something that we're dealing with, and it's overwhelming the law enforcement community right now. And we looking for help for NGOs and other organizations to help us with that training to support the resources that they provide that we don't have. So identification, doing real-time tracking of an abducted child. I've seen it personally at a conference last year in Arkansas, where all of these youths came together, all these NGOs, some law enforcement, some civilian, getting together to locate an abducted child. That was it. So to watch those efforts and everybody collectively working together, because I think too much in law enforcement, we're too siloed in what we're doing, and we are not utilizing the resources out there enough to make a collaborative effort to combat the trafficking, child sexual abuse.
Great. I mean, and I will welcome questions. You know, just speak a bit more about the organization, as well as how it started, how long you've been doing this, that sort of thing.
Thank you, council members, for having us. I'm Clinton Gardner. I am a former officer with Williamsport Police. I served the city for 9 years prior to being employed full-time with Lantern Rescue. We are a 501c3 nonprofit founded in 2020. Human trafficking, like Chief Snyder was saying, is rapidly growing. Annually, there's an estimated 27 million victims of trafficking. It's the second fastest growing industry in the world behind narcotics trafficking, and it's a $1.5 billion industry. Through my experience with the Williamsport Police, as well as working with federal authorities down local, numerous agencies around the state and the country. When I started with Lantern Rescue, I started as a volunteer for roughly 2 years before being employed full time. During my volunteer time, I conveyed very strongly that there was a need for this at a local level, human trafficking training. So we all got together, put together a bit of a domestic plan, and we started acting on it. We operate globally, primarily and historically. We currently operate in 10 countries around the world, including the United States, and we're currently in discussions to expand that almost double in the next year. So we'll be in about 19 or 20, hopefully by the end of the year. What we do is we only work with governments of other countries, including the United States. We'll go in and we help them evaluate their systems, including law enforcement, their court systems, and their aftercare programs. We're firm believers that those three together, working in conjunction, can combat human trafficking successfully. Without one of those three components, it's not looking good. So as far as the community is concerned, I was born and raised in Lycoming County. I've lived here my whole life. I have a very strong passion for this community, and a very strong passion, obviously, for Williamsport. It's the heart of the county, and it holds a strong place in my heart for my experiences here. I wouldn't be where I'm at without the city. For our community, we have donated trauma kits to the CERT team. The CERT team is assisted in human trafficking search warrants. We have conducted numerous community events to include education of local social services, hospital staff, students from middle school up to college. And those seminars can be anywhere from 1 to 8 hours. Primarily, obviously, our bread and butter is training law enforcement and aftercare programs, social services and court systems. Those trainings are typically about 8 hours long, and they consist of general education and human trafficking. I know you mentioned the firearms. I think you're looking at our website. We do tactical trainings around the world, but we do not, engage in any of that, strictly training, especially in the United States. The trainings, like I said, we offer typically an 8-hour training, general education, and that includes, grooming methods, types of trafficking. We offer scenarios, and we go a little bit into depth depending on the audience, especially if it's law enforcement. And that's kind of the gist I got. If you have any more questions based off that.
Mrs. Katz.
About 10 years ago, California County Republican and supporting, when they say big house in the county, no one said what was that. But it was amazing. We learned a lot about human trafficking, and we were all shocked at how much that is around our area and how young the ages are and how traumatic that is. And it's gotten worse over the years. And it's just shocking. It's absolutely shocking that it happens in our area so frequently.
Yeah, absolutely. And I can tell you one of my last cases as an officer within the city was a trafficking case. It's 100% in our area. There's multiple cases that have occurred in our area within the last couple of years. So it's here. And just like I said, through my experience, when I got involved in this, I looked back and I was like, holy smokes, like there was so much that I missed just because I didn't know. And it was a pit in my stomach. Like I sat in my chair thinking, man, how did I miss that? So yeah, we don't want that to happen to other officers. We want to provide the training and the tools, and support local law enforcement as well as those around.
That's how we felt. It needed to be done. And, we supported the house that we, and it's not the women and young girls that are taken and, to support that home that they were taken to, but years of therapy and everything else that has to go to. I mean, encourage that. So I think it's very good.
Any comments or questions?
Very minor procedural point, the organization is called Veteran Foundation, not Veteran Rescue.
Veteran Rescue.
Oh, because the resolution and the contract will say Veteran Foundation.
I believe
Veteran Foundation. Just confirming. When I looked up your website, it was Veteran Rescue and Veteran Foundation. There is a different ecumenical organization called that. So just want to make sure we're all on the same page. All right. Okay, great. No, aside from that, I've been visiting a lot of people, and it does, to Mr. Evans' point, make me concerned every time I think about how I may have seen some of these victims up of trafficking and trafficking and something not. Yeah, just assume that it was okay or things that you know, because the thing was around you, but. I would be more than happy to get off to people.
I failed to mention our training is free. We don't charge anyone anywhere around the world.
Any other comments or questions? Hearing and seeing none, then, Mrs. Franklin, item 13.
Mr. Allison,
Yes.
Mr. Mackey,
Yes.
Mr. Posey,
Yes.
Mrs. Katz. Yes. Ms. Wheeling,
Yes,
Mr. Biden,
Yes.
Mr. Yoder.
Yes, motion passes 7-0. We'll jump to item 15, Mrs. Frank.
15 or 14.
15.
Resolution authorizing MOU between Williamsport Bureau of Police and the National Child Protection Task Force.
Is there a motion in the second?
So moved.
Second.
Motion in the second, Chief, these are related, so.
Yes, this is similar. And also resolution authorizing memorandum between Williamsport Bureau of Police and National Child Protection Task Force, being that the city of Williamsport Bureau of Police is a law enforcement agency. As I said before, tasked with protection of all individuals and justice. perpetrators of human trafficking and child sexual abuse material, and actively investigates these cases of child sexual abuse material and human trafficking. From the National Child Protection Task Force located in Fayetteville, Arkansas, is a registered nonprofit organization, as well that provides investigative assistance and training of law enforcement agencies in matters involving missing and exploited children. The authorization of this MOU between Williamsport Bureau of Police and the National Child Protection Task Force would allow for the effort in regard to investigative support and in training matters involving child sexual abuse material and human trafficking. This MOU was also reviewed by our citizens and also. You know, sure if anybody was on Zoom. So I have to represent Teresa that can answer any questions.
Does anyone have any comments or questions? Did you get to this public safety?
Also, yes.
Any comments or questions on this from members? Yeah, Mr. Wilson.
Welcome, Chief. Is this also being provided at no cost to the city?
That's correct.
I was just scanning through there and I couldn't see it. I didn't see any figures or numbers. Great, these resources in general. Yeah.
Some great organizations, doing some great things, so I'm glad to be a part of it.
Any comments or questions? All right, you see now.
Sorry,
Go.
do we have a representative?
Yeah, she's muted currently.
I need to be early. Yeah, I would like to hear from her as well, if that's possible.
Absolutely. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. Are you able to hear me clearly?
Yeah, we are.
What? Yes, we are, sorry. The volume was, we're joking at our AV person, not you.
All right. Good evening. My name is Teresa Howdege. I am the COO of the National Child Protection Task Force. We are an organization that is a registered 501c3 within the United States. We were originated in 2019. We are a collective of both full-time employees, a small group of us, 8 of us. In addition to a number of volunteers, we are a collective of current and former law enforcement, prosecutors, and individuals who are within the private sector. Our entire focus is to assist law enforcement at no cost when it comes to cases involving missing and exploited youths. So for a little bit of background, as of 2022, the FBI determined that there were 359,094 missing children within the United States. In addition to that, the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children, NCMEC, the ones who run the Cyber Tip Line, which is an organization that you may be familiar with, they were able to determine through a series of studies that 1 in 6 runaway children are likely victims of child sex trafficking. So what our entire organization is dedicated to is to provide additional resources to law enforcement regarding these very sensitive cases. A little background in regards to myself, I was a prosecutor for a decade, previously started in Boston, Massachusetts, and then I was a prosecutor in York County, Pennsylvania, where I reside to this day. My husband is also a police sergeant with the York City Police Department, and he actually is originally from Williamsport. So my side of the family is from that area, and I'm very familiar with some of the challenges that you face uniquely in regards to the number of folks that you have in your population, where the number of resources that you have to actually invest all of the different cases that you have. So in regards to NCPTF, our focus is to provide as much information as possible when it comes to intelligence. So while Lantern Rescue is, I think, a lot more focused on tactical nature and providing the education overall in regards to human trafficking, NCPTF is actually more focused as an intelligence organization, where we are able to guide law enforcement officers how to conduct investigations in a quick and efficient manner. And we are able to provide them additional assistance in regards to investigation at no additional cost, because we have access to various tools that have been donated to us. We always conduct investigations within the parameters of any sort of
law enforcement investigation. So we are not going to be doing anything that is going to potentially jeopardize any constitutional rights of potential perpetrators or the witnesses, or more importantly, the children. Our focus is to provide quick, actionable intelligence to officers so that they are able to make an effectual arrest. I would actually like to give a pertinent example. We have provided a series of training in New York State, in addition to a number of other states. However, last year, there was a child that went missing from upstate New York, around the Buffalo area. We had provided training to that department a little earlier on, and based on that training, they decided that that child was not an average runaway, and they believed that the child had actually been groomed and solicited away from their home. That child was found in less than 24 hours in York, Pennsylvania, by a man that was twice her age, and was grooming her and using her for sexual purposes, in addition to exposing her to narcotics. That individual ended up pleading guilty in York, Pennsylvania, and he is now serving a significant state sentence. We were reached out to by law enforcement in the Buffalo area and informed us that if it wasn't for the training and assistance we provided, that child would not have been found within 24 hours. Our entire hope is to be able to provide this to as many different departments as possible. And based upon multiple opportunities that I have had personally to meet with Williamsport PD and through the connections that we have with the Lantern Rescue Foundation, I totally believe that we can provide a significant amount of support for your community.
Thank you very much. That was very insightful and very much appreciated. Thanks for the work you're doing.
Thank you.
You may have any comments or questions for representative. All right. Any final comments or questions on the item? Okay, here you see none. Mrs. Franklin, item 15, please.
Mr. Allison,
Yes.
Mr. Mackey,
Yes.
Mr. Pelisi,
Yes.
Mrs. Katz. Yes. Ms. Mueller,
Yes.
Mr. Biden,
Yes.
Mr. Yoder.
Yes, motion passes 7-0. Then we'll jump up to item 14, Mrs. Frank.
Resolution authorizing purchase of 4 pursuit rated police vehicles and related uplift equipment.
Is there a motion and a second?
So moved.
Second.
Chief Snyder.
Yes, that's the final resolution. The resolution authorizing the purchase of 4 pursuit police vehicles and related upfit equipment. Attached a memo there for your review. For the approval, the resolution authorizing the purchase of 4 2024 Dodge Durango pursuit rated vehicles from New Holland Auto Group from New Holland, PA. And the cost to upfit each vehicle by attending the purchase vehicle service, also from New Holland, PA. The total cost would be $234,540.54. This amount is to be allocated from the American Rescue Plan Act fund. I do have a breakdown of costs that I can go through. So we have 2 Smart Dodge Durangos, 2024, at $46,460 a piece. That would be for a total of $92,920 for those 2 vehicles. Then we have 2 unmarked 2024 Dodge Durango police vehicles at $46,396 a piece. So for 2 of those, that'd be for a total cost of $92,792. Then we have the update cost for the marked vehicles, the $15,655.42 for each. So the 2 of them would be $31,310.84. Then the outfits for the 2 unmarked Dodge Durangos would be at $8,758.85 a piece. So for 2, we'll put us at $17,517.70. That breakdown would be the total $234,540.54. The purchase of these vehicles to include the outfits would be per the PA Coast Guard's contract number 012 E22259. Therefore, we're going through the process. And I did attach all of that for your inclusion. We'll go for any questions out.
Chief, Mr. Mackey. Any discussion or not?
Yes, no, we did discuss it.
All right. Just kidding.
No, I get it. Listen, I have like about 20 minutes to run speed. So, yeah, no, the chief explained it all fairly well. And before I mean, I have a couple things that I want to say, but open it up to you first if you have anything you want to add.
No, I think the chief answered all the stuff.
Sure, okay. Yeah, again, this really is not, has anything to do with this specific resolution, you know, where the money's coming from. We did talk, briefly about the Dodge Durango vehicle. It's apparently getting good reviews. I know we already have several of them in our fleet. I think that the one, I guess you can call it concern, you know, we just spoke a little while ago about the visibility of police officers that, you know, gained, and that's great. I personally am a little concerned with the direction we're going with our police vehicles and markings that we're putting on them. I feel like they're very hard to distinguish as police vehicles. I mean, you know, especially if that's dark out. I mean, I know they have the light fixtures on top, but those are pretty low profile. Again, this is just an observation, but you know, we're paying almost twice as much for the outfit here on these vehicles for something that is hard to, in my opinion, distinguish immediately as a police vehicle. You know, I think there is something to be said when it comes to deterrence, when you can see a police car from 3 or 4 blocks away and know it's a police car. And again, this is just my opinion, something I don't know, worthy of discussion. I mean, could you talk to us a little bit about the transition away from the old black, yellow, white? Those were a little bit more noticeable.
There wasn't a whole lot behind it. One of the vehicles were offered. We looked at several other departments that have gone through the same scheme. Not all. So I mean, there's arguments on both sides. We listened to the department what they wanted. The decals are illuminated. So when lights are shining off on, help see it. But understand the outfits. Most of the outfits that we're talking about is all the technology that we rely on. So most of that cost is your inside the vehicle with the computers, the systems that we're using for everything, everything on the track system, the printer and all that stuff. We're trying to keep the officers up to speed with the technology. So, but duly noted, numbers.
Yeah, again, obviously nothing that's going to stop for this resolution, but it was just curious to me. These, when you say printers, what kind of information?
Ticket.
Just
having
moving
capability.
violations.
You have to have capability to print off that. That's it.
Okay. I
Yeah, I mean, I haven't really thought about that one before. You know, I guess, Chief, as your, you know, as your team is out in the community and having some of those, I guess, maybe like positive interactions and doing that community engagement piece. I guess if there's a way or some good mechanism to maybe kind of vet that out a little bit to see if that is something of a concern in the community that might be worth it before the next time we look at cycling some new vehicles out, but.
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, we engage with the community. We show got nothing but positive feedback.
Okay, well, that's awesome. Mr. Allison.
And on the other hand, though, once you identify a police vehicle, after you've seen one, the black vehicle, every time you see there's similar vehicles that are black, and simply subconsciously you think you're seeing another police vehicle. It might suppress crime a little bit, you know, they don't know where they're coming from, so. It's a positive.
It'd be interesting to look at it. I don't know if we have to think about that stuff, and that's not a negative reflection, but I get that's. There's 2 sides of the coin, for sure.
Yeah, and again, my point
Yeah.
too was, again, there is a benefit to having unmarked police cars. And if you're gonna have marked police cars, they should be marked is how I, and that's just, again, that's just my opinion. But again,
This meeting.
I think I'm see John's point, I mean, and also Dan's, but I think the idea of calling out the sense that I got when you push over the all rock and part of it was the cost saving issue. It's cheaper not to have to pay for cars and variety of colors, which I'm fine with. But you know, you can get a car in straight black and then put a couple of decals on it. And I'm fine with that conceptually, but I do also sort of think of it, to Randy's point, as a kind of an attempt to hide in plain sight. Almost more than think of, probably because all the cars look like cop cars, so, you know, both are a little suspicious of every black car, and then also, you know, never play with caution, so. I don't know, I do think there's some value in the police being vibrantly out there, and obviously, it's the way that we are not perhaps as much in all. But the actual question I have was, what specific model does 2024 rank on the purchase? So what is that, how does that, I guess what I'm curious about is what is the discount for CoStar's purchase versus regular purchase, which is why I asked the cost. Okay, but I mean, is it,
So.
what would a car like this cost on the market?
Relatively less, say.
Okay.
So do you know, do you have any recent data on what the cost savings market rate versus those stars looks like?
Not right off.
You, okay.
Chief, but, so you can, if you wanted to see that, when the chief was saying that, bypasses the bidding process, that's one way to look at it, as far as it gets around the city having to independently bid these out. But what the advantage of the CoStars is that the state has already done that.
Yeah.
That's why you get to use it. And so we could look at this contract and we could pull it up, it's in there somewhere, and it'll say what the pricing is that's offered, and usually it's a X% off at SRP. So if you want the exact figure, you can find it in the paper, but you have to.
That's because I don't see it.
But you know, it has to be a good deal because it's set.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to speak for Liz. I mean, you know, in my individual experience on both sides of CoStars, you know, I think there's instances where, you know, you get a decent deal. I've seen instances where, at times you really don't. And so, you know, I generally think it's a good practice periodically, as we're using CoStars for different things to just double check it. And I don't know that you and I have really ever had the conversation before. I don't know that you have ever had an experience, and so that's not
Well, I'll be quite frank, so my captain, that's been my assistant chief, which running this, and we were first released for the years of my.
Yeah, that's okay. And that's okay. And I don't expect them to have that experience either. I mean, but then again, this is not a negative criticism by any means. This is an opportunity to kind of share the experience I've had, and I think what Councilman Neely was getting at.
Right, well, just for instance, there's no reference in the contract. Well, the activities related to this. And so, you know, and I'm not saying it's not written on the contract, from where it's page by. But that's always my understanding of
There would be, it's just a matter of, look, the system that you have to look to figure out what that is tab upon tab upon click upon click, so it's there somewhere, it's just a matter of finding.
Yeah, got it. I guess I'm just curious. All vehicles, every price is through the roof, and so the content is surprisingly when we purchase complete vehicles every year. How much they've gone up by, but I'm also curious as to whether the value of the CoStar's program is as present as it was. You know, it used to seem like it's often about 20% off the market, how much it is that much.
And you also have to consider that if you choose to not use a joint purchasing program, you have to go through the administrative work now. So there's costs associated with that.
Any other comments or questions? Okay, here you see none, Mrs. Franklin, item 14, please.
Mr. Allison,
Yes.
Mr. Mackey,
Yes.
Mr. Pelisi,
Yes.
Mrs. Katz. Yes. Ms. Mealy,
Yes.
Mr. Biden,
Yes.
Mr. Yoder.
Yes, motion passes 7-0. Thank you, Chief. We'll jump to item 10, Mrs. Franklin.
Resolution, Director of Department of Community and Economic Development.
Is there a motion and a second?
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. Mayor Slaughter, good evening, sir.
Yes, good evening.
Thank you for your patience.
No problem.
All three of you.
Vice Members Council Administration, what you have before you is resolution for the appointment director of community economic development. Valerie Bessie is currently serves as our grant administrator. Since then, January, has done a tremendous job in that role. And of course, is being recommended now to be elevated to the director of community economic development. This was a meeting finance. We had a almost sort of a joint discussion on this and with Jamie on some different topics related to community economic development and finance. Different things that are going on in the community, obviously some that we discussed earlier here this evening. There's some future opportunities that could potentially arise out of the Community Economic Development Office. Talked a little bit about CEDACOG. Councilman Katz brought that up. Some of the oversight and compliance that they're working on and taking some of the time out of our Community Economic Development employees at that time off their hands. They go out and do some other things. And now we may see that that capacity expand a little bit moving forward. Valerie's vision, of course, she's here, so she can speak to that herself. But we did have somewhat of a robust conversation in finance. I think it was a good conversation. Talked about, of course, filling the role in the Works Council's vote tonight of the grant administrator. We arguably, and members of administration can vouch for that we think it was arguably one of the best roles that council has created or positions. It took a significant amount of time off some of our employees for grant compliance and oversight monitoring, all that type of thing. At the same time, but after meetings, we did talk about some writers has been working with Valerie as well. Multimodal, excuse me, over their street. And that will continue on. So anyway, it was a good conversation, I believe. For the question, and
Ms. Mealy, conversation in finance.
Yeah, we did have a good conversation, about everything. So we got, I didn't really understand the thing. Anyway, we discussed and I think that actually in terms of the and such as that, we should have these types that we're talking about.
Yeah.
Sort of very, what's the position, what we found that to be interesting part of the discussion. But anyway, it was I would say almost exclusively positive discussion about where we're headed with the community development that we have for community development in the future. The things that which is only
We should.
because so many people have attested to every skill and grant position. Position needs are there together somewhere else. But that said, I think that this is a very exciting development of the city. I think that the next step, sort of the community development and we had a fair amount of discussion about the contribution, the current contribution from the general fund into the community development and development department, which has many close to us recall didn't exist prior to about 2 years ago. The CDBG was entirely limited by funding from the federal government and the city has been financially supporting that department for the first time in the course of the last 2 years. While we outsource Sean work in that department to a third party that specializes in the paperwork that community development, so that the administrative was federal grant was heavy. And so we discussed whether, and one of the discussions we had, whether we could save a portion of the funding that we were taking from the general fund by insourcing that work. Again, the city project to do. But I think that the general consensus was that we should obviously look at the possibilities in that department, but that we may never again have a community development department that is paperwork still in the way that we've been for so many years was. So there was a chunk of discussion around that. Both how to slim the contribution from the general fund, but also I think perhaps more importantly, how to maximize the what we're doing with the community development department in terms of outreach to the community. And to that point, Valerie to that a little bit because she came to us obviously from the federal levels within the community.
Thank you. Thank you, President Yoder, members of council. I appreciate the opportunity to be considered for this position. Councilwoman Mealy asked me to speak to my vision, and I'm going to actually quote exactly what she said in our meeting. That was that her vision was for the department not to just simply administer a dwindling entitlement from HUD. And I think that, essentially summarizes what the administration and city council are hopeful for with this position. There is some work to be done within the department as far as policies, procedures, bringing things up to current technology, putting things in place so that we are able to address that entitlement from HUD in a way that works smoothly and allows our staff to be able to acquire additional funding. And I shared in the meeting that I think that really the role of this department is to understand the priorities of council, understand the priorities of the administration, but to be more deeply embedded in the community and understand the needs of the community and the gaps in the community that exist. Just speaking from my previous experience in the nonprofit world, I know there are many funding sources that are not available to nonprofits, but are available to municipalities. So finding a way to serve the needs of some of the community that are currently unmet. And I also see this person as really being the expert with HUD. I hear a lot of conversation in different meetings about, I'm not really sure how that HUD regulation works, and can we check with HUD? So I really hope to become, that HUD expert within the administration so that I can help guide those processes and also to kind of serve the city in that capacity where I would be understanding the needs in the ongoing projects. So we would be talking about doing one project, using CDBG for a portion of it, potentially using a DCED grant, a DCNR grant, and having kind of an overall vision for the city and being able to pair all those funding sources together. And I know that Councilman Fighter and I have been working on a multimodal project, and along with Dale, our city engineer, we've been able to kind of move that into a 3-phase project, identifying 3 different funding sources. And I really think that's how we're going to make a bigger impact in the city, is to, work collaboratively with different funding sources on similar priorities. So I hope to be able to bring people together in a way that we're doing problem solving and we're effectively communicating and we are working towards a common goal.
And beyond that, Ms. Mealy?
Actually, one thing that I would did not occur to me in the course of our something you seem to remind me. I want to say, unless we spent them, I don't remember, Derek, that the city had a little bit of $1 million in returned funds. Yes, right. And we've talked for years about finding a way to maybe do like a person home buyers programs with that. Anyway, by speaking of locating funds for community initiatives, those are ones we need to locate, we have them. So anyway, but no, I will defer to Councilman to Bonnie Katz, who also was a vocal participant in the time. For other things, I wouldn't say about this, but I we had a good discussion. That there's clearly while there will be work to be done, really to acclimate herself to the role and acclimate the department to a new chief administrator, I think there's, I think she really did the job and will bring some exciting direction to the position as well.
Questions for?
Can I think of one more thing? The one other thing that I asked, there had been some talk about the presentation on what the grants position had accomplished, which I think is something important. And I would love to see that happen sometime soon, just because I think that would be a positive thing, both to bring to the larger community, bring the attention to the community, and also for me in the budget time. But I also requested that perhaps once, presuming that was planning the director today, that maybe towards the beginning of the year when things are slow, we could take some time to kind of get a report from the department to see what happens there and perhaps look at have a discussion about direction and let's see the possibility. Let's see where it goes.
I like both of those. I think we have a good 6-month sample size, and a good one coming from Val, on the grants rule. Val, I would just ask you to offer us some coaching on when logistically that makes sense for you to do, because you're coming from the role, whether that's August or September. You tell us what would work for you to get what you need together, that kind of stuff. We could do that in a committee meeting, I think would be more appropriate, and just easier. And then I would concur with the component going into next year, which is the community development office. I mean, that's been an office that's had some transition over my time on council. And I'm not convinced that it's been a good transition. I think you're going to run into a few things that frankly going to be cleaned up over the past 2 years. I think we've got some good new staff in there. Trinae sticks out for me, for example. I mean, they're all good, but I know she's put in a lot of work. Her and I have had some conversations about the office. So I think you're going to get a good asset there with the staff and with her. I think they're going to learn a lot from you. So that's why I think I'm really excited to see you in this role. But it would be really helpful for me to understand kind of what's been going on there the last couple of years. I've been pretty vocal about it, and I think council generally has during budget time. There's been a gap of, I think, our expectations for that office and what's actually been executed. I think your vision with what you've articulated at high level lines up with what I'm looking for. I'm excited to see you go do it. I know you will. The one thing I would encourage you to think about, once maybe we get through budget time or get up to budget time and then go into the next year, is the economic development piece of this office. I think this office traditionally is focused on community development, and that's a critical component. They go hand in hand. But I don't know that we've really had a good handle on just long-term vision of economic development in the city. A couple of us tried to get that off the ground, notably Liz, Dave, Banks, a couple of years ago. And unfortunately that kind of fell through. And so when the opportunity is right, I think it'd be valuable to kind of revisit that idea of looking at long-term economic development strategy in the city, what makes sense where, how do we quantify it, what types of, incentives, et cetera, make sense in particular areas. I don't know that we've ever really put together a holistic vision of what we see the city looking like in 20, 30 years. And I think this is a critical part of what this office can do. And actually, I think you're uniquely equipped to do that. I don't know that we've had people in the past that have been able to really do that. So it's a long-winded answer of saying excited, I am. And we'll be here to help you.
Thank you, I appreciate that. As far as the reporting goes, Mayor's letter asked me when I was hired to plan to do a cumulative 6-month report. So I've been keeping that all along. So whenever you're ready to have that meeting, I have that information compiled and prepared where we can discuss that before budget.
Yeah. See one.
This is completely off of all of that, but Derek, I realized after the finance meeting that The one crucial question that we didn't ask, but that the previous director hired their salary details in the resolution. What are we doing with those items for these two positions?
This one, I believe, is 80, which is within salary. Allotment that we have in community development, it's not going to take us over. And the budgeted salary for, whatever the budget is for that.
So, and I think it's, I didn't say 80-ish, so you're matching.
Whatever the
budgets
budgeted salary is.
For 2024 is what you're matching. Okay. The other, Mrs. Caston, I thought you had a question. Okay, got it. Any other comments or questions for this? I'm going to do a presumptive congratulations. This is Franklin, item 10, please.
Mr. Alves,
Yes.
Mr. Mackey,
Yes.
Mr. Pelisi,
Yes.
Mrs. Katz.
Yes.
Ms. Mealy,
Yes.
Mr. Ryder,
Yes.
Mr. Yoder.
Yes, motion passes 7-0. Congratulations. Let's jump up to item 9 then, Mrs. Franklin.
Resolution appointing Director of Finance and Administration.
Is there a motion and a second?
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second, Mayor Slaughter.
Yes, we do. Once again, President Yoder, Vice President Ryder, members of Administration, Director Director Resolution for the Director of Finance, Jamie Livermore, who currently serves as our Budget and Fiscal Officer here with the city. We're recommending that she also be elevated from within to the role of Director of Finance. She comes with extensive experience, not just here at the city, but from previous roles, VP at the bank, and other positions she held prior to joining the city. She has been instrumental in the transition that we've seen here in the finance department during Tracy's time, software implementation with finance, HR, and payroll software. She, of course, was in the finance office for all of that. All of the workflows which President Yoder asked for after the finance meeting, we had the conversation during the finance meeting. I believe Vice President Ryder brought that up as well. And so that workflow process, which was in place since Jamie came here, technically as budget and fiscal officer, she has more approving authority on a day-to-day basis than she would as far as within the system than she would as the Director of Finance. However, from day one, we did put in place that workflow that with her husband being the Director of Public Works, that maybe came out of Public Works that needed financial approval, purchase orders, check recs, whatever these might be, that she does not do that approval. Kevin Mackey, our treasurer, and Peg Woodring, controller, have those controls in place that they provide the approvals there. Now, we would stay in place. President Yoder did ask that I talk a little bit about some other controls that are in place generally within the new software that City Council approved as part of our stamp program. With DCED, they paid for 70% of it. And so just generally, every transaction that's made within the software gets a timestamp with the person's name on it. Even if it's an edit, so if you even edit anything, it gets a timestamp with the person's name who made the edit, automatically goes into audit folders. So when our auditors come in to audit, a very nice piece of this financial software is that a portion of the audits that are in those folders, and they can just start to look at various transactions that have been made within the system related to the audit. So that's great. The workflow process is fantastic as well. As far as everything being electronic, flowing from within departments, and then ultimately through the final approval process and getting the check out to the contractors, or whoever the check is going to. Also, there's compliance built in as well. And so whether it's payroll deductions, whatever the compliance might be, that's built into the software to make sure we're adhering to federal tax laws. We were looking at that earlier, and also even had looked into it. It's nice to have that built in as well within the software, that we don't have to even check and make sure we red flag it. If something seems off, automatically goes, we get a red flag, and the software company would get a red flag if something's off. So Just internal controls with any software, are really, really nice. You know, not put out there, but when you see it in action, you just see the time that it saves. Also, if we do need something, if council requests or anyone requests something, we can find a document so much easier than having to, you know, dig through boxes and boxes of paper trying to find it. So it's really having a digital format in place has been tremendous. And so that's in addition to all the compliance that is built in. And so that is there. Those internal controls are there. The workflow process is there. Again, she's been with the city about a year and a half now, and those have always been in place. It will remain in place. And so we don't, of course, foresee any issues with that. I think that's pretty much to read into the record on that. Again, we had big conversation in finance, and sort of a joint conversation with economic development and finance. Those two are kind of the vision for those roles. And also the replacement with the grant administrator, budget and fiscal officer. Councilwoman Katz asked about number of employees, I believe, in finance. It's on 3. We'd love to have more, but we realize that it's the budget, but it's going very well there. And we absolutely intend in the council to fill the roles that are left vacant immediately and as quickly as possible, post them and get those filled. I think that covers the majority of them. Jamie is here as well as myself to answer any questions, and this is your view. Finance.
Conversation in finance. Thank you, Mayor Slaughter.
Yeah, this was reviewing finance and we discussed a wide range of, for potential concerns with the issue. But generally speaking, as I said, I think regarding both of the candidates that we chat on finance on Tuesday. We have 2 individuals who have been good employees for us as well as they've been good employees for several other people. And in the, particularly in the employment market, we currently find ourselves, but as an employer in general, that is something that I value highly. Someone who you know shows up and gets the job done, and proposing to do a bigger job than you well. That is exceptionally valuable. And Derek, I felt there may be others with more concerns about conflict. I felt that the system that we have put in place, and the administration has put in place to avoid even the appearance of conflict between the finance department and the Ministry of Parks Department, as long as it also passes our auditors and performance and we check with them, right? My chief concern, of course, would be some of the financial, but and so as long as that is not a concern, that should concern me. And then
The only thing I would add to that is, I mean, look, at the end of the day, there were clearly controls, okay? But, people are people. I don't know the likelihood, but I'm sure at some point there will be some chatter or what have you about just that, because it's naturally in existence. I mean, the way that that's managed is through managing people day to day. So, and ultimately that's going to fall on Derek. And Derek, you manage people enough at this point to be aware of that. That's just simply something you can't put a policy in place. Really. So you're just going to need to be comfortable with and aware of that potentially happening and working through that when that does. Because if and when it does, I'm confident there's not going to be any justification for it, but nonetheless, you're still going to have to deal with it. So.
Yeah, I mean, I like Damien's staff a lot. I mean, I've been issued prime Damien's staff. If there is any type of member Friday, I guess I can put that in the record. I love Damien. I'm just saying to that scenario right there. So yes, no, and also you have to you know, the controls, not just within the software, but Kevin Mackey and, Peg Woodring would also have to, again, have some type of, you know, they would have to sign off on something like that as well. So there'd be a number of people that would, in theory, somehow have to miss it. But no, if there's any, even an appearance, which I have, there's no doubt that will not happen, but, we will address it. We can make sure that,
No, I think that's. I'm fine with that. And I would obviously, defer that to the finance committee. But we may have other, finance committee, who may have been done. The one point that I should bring up that I hadn't thought about during finance, I reviewed a bunch of Jamie's resumes, but I haven't reviewed your education background. And I think technically this position requires a bachelor's degree.
it says bachelor's degree, it doesn't require it. We did check with Austin on that. I actually asked Austin that question, before we made this recommendation. So, he said, with her relevant experience where she's been previously with the city, that would in fact make her qualified with even, without just a bachelor's. So for example, someone had a bachelor's with no relevant experience, they may not be obviously as competent or qualified for the job as what Jamie is. So given her degree that she has, plus her relevant years of experience, that makes her a qualified candidate for the position. That's last time.
I'm not disagreeing with the fact that she is qualified for the position, but my reading, but I guess what I was wondering is, would this be a good time for us possibly as a city to look at creating some sort of program for training like that? Do you know what I'm saying? that it doesn't, it seems to me like something that we would want a director of the, one of the city directors to have, is, and that's not like an elitist educational thing. I think that's just probably a reasonably good policy. But on the other hand, I don't object to hiring someone without one. But should we try to create some sort of program to be that can become, during Jamie's time with us, that she can attain a bachelor's degree, because that obviously both in position or with the city and position or in the house.
Yeah, we do have, we have an agreement with them. I don't remember off the top of my head. It's X number of credits per year that the city employees can do the benefit. We just reviewed it. I don't remember.
Can you send,
Is it 12?
is it 12 per employee?
I don't.
Can you send
I'll
that out to us?
Because Pat Marty we upped it.
So I think I tend to agree with Ms. Mealy's line of thinking. And again, none of this is a negative reflection on any candidate, on you, Jamie. But it brings up the question, based on our applicable pool that we got, based on the current labor market, it's really, I think, a question of, do we need to reevaluate educational levels for these leadership positions, or knowing where the labor market is, and what we will likely see moving forward, do we, if that's valuable to us, what's the pathway look like to bring them on board and get them to where we as a city would desire them to be? That might answer it right there, in all seriousness. So I think if you can send that to us, that would be helpful, I think, in maybe starting that conversation. I mean, honestly, depending on, and frankly, I think regardless of the context of director of finance and administration, I think some formal, I call it tuition reimbursement, that's generally what everybody calls it in higher ed, private sector. It's going to make us a more competitive employer, help us attract more talent. I mean, Chief, I would think that would help you in attract police officers. I would think Jamie in the finance department, that would help in backfilling the role, for example. I think things like that are gonna help us maybe keep people from like living at Penn College here in the area and the city. So I think it would be beneficial, not just in this position, but across the board itself.
I don't have much work because we ever taken advantage of that. I know that we've had that agreement with Penn College for a long time.
We got it for a long, long time, and I think over the years, there's been various employees take advantage of it. I don't know to what degree. Since I've been in this role, I know we've had employees take like, Microsoft Office classes, for example, at Penn College. But it came about, actually, the renewal, because we had an employee that was looking to take a class in college. So we didn't do that long, but I don't have it all the time in my head what it is, but I can send it out. And I would agree, I think the latter of what President Yoder mentioned, because there are organizations around us right now, a lot of authority, for example, I know, I believe like Green County Law, so there are different ones that have had an open direct clients for a long time. So we are fortunate to, we know these earlier to have folks that are qualified and in-house to be able to fill this position. We've been relatively fortunate over the last few years, where other organizations are having a little bit of trouble in the labor market. We've had pretty good success. So, but I would agree that, see what's out there for the programs that retain talent and also attract talent to the city. And this model is also not just related to education, but also we are exploring, I should say, models that God talked about this a little bit too, where sort of to your development point, they give residents to the city. So working with institutions, whether it's the hospital, the colleges, a bank, and us, where we offer, whether it's some type of discount on taxes, or work with different entities that they purchase within the city. So there's that model as well. We also retain recruit talent here in the city. So I think a few of those that we're exploring, which compares to the fruit down the road. But I agree with you that we can look at these different programs and see how they're doing bigger than this.
Scouts.
First of all, I'm firmly believe that sometimes street smarts is more valuable than college education. You learn through your experiences, you learn, and if you're smart enough, you pick up things.
Right.
But the thing that I would like to see, and I don't know if it's ever been accomplished yet, there is job descriptions for everybody. And HR has been working on that back in the past several years. I don't think it's ever really been completed.
I can give it to you. I think we have for the most part the big shot.
But that can be incorporated in what they're stating, what they would like to see in it. That can also probably be incorporated into a job description.
Yeah.
And it also helps us, and when we're looking for somebody, if it's in writing, we've done this, and this.
Yeah, and I think we can also not just Green College, look at like Hunting College, GMC, we could work with them as well. That, I could be wrong, but I don't think we have enough. But I agree with you that sometimes the street smarts and the experience that you get, professional experience that you receive, could be more valuable to those of us, myself included, that have advanced degrees. And there's clearly people that are more experienced in the roles that would not. So it's not just the degree that you may hold, but the experience that comes with it.
Mr. Biden? I'd like to hear from you, Jamie, about your taking on this role, and I've heard enough from members of council now. I'd like to hear from you.
Okay. Hi, everybody, members of council. Thank you for giving me the opportunity tonight. Like the mayor said, I've been with the city for about a year and a half. I feel like the finance department is going in a great direction. We're really moving in a positive direction with our new software. I worked with Tracy last year on the budget, so budget's coming up. I've been working on preparation for that. I feel like we're going in a great direction. We're getting the audits done. We're heading towards positive stuff with that. So I just think everything's getting better day by day and moving in a positive direction.
One thing that was talked about at council, or excuse me, at the committee meeting, you were asked, what do you see a need in the department as far as additional hire, going forward, how are you going to do that?
Right now, once we get the budget and a new budget and fiscal officers, we have those okay tonight. I feel like we would be well staffed, in the future, possibly another part-time person if possible. We have a great part-time person right now. But I think our staff's good for, we just bring that budget and fiscal officer in, and I feel like we would be, well staffed. With the Springbrook has taken a lot of paper and time off our hands that we can spend in other aspects catching up with things. So that's been a great tool to, help us utilize the employees that we have better, their time's better spent.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions? Allison?
Just a general, observation. I appreciate, the job both of these, women are filling for us, and I really think it's, I think we're positioned the city, in this area that they're fulfilling and combining with our treasurer's office. It's kind of been transformational for the past few years. I think there's a convergence in that area that it is going to be very beneficial. I'm excited about this for the future of the city. Long after I'm off the council, and also the development that we saw tonight, these big developments in the city that are undergoing. It's not an accident, it's not, oh, we just stumbled into the pot of gold at the end of the rainbow. I think there's been a lot of hard work from your administration, and council has been very proactive, especially with the ARPA money. I think in combination with the administration, we've done some really good things with that money. I think we laid a foundation, and I think I have a real positive attitude that I haven't had in a long time, because we went through some trying circumstances over the past several years. So things are really looking up, and this is a great part of it. That's all.
Here, Mr. Nicholson. Any other comments or questions?
This is a little more, so kind of back to the further education conversation, is this something you'd be interested in?
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Absolutely, always. Even if I did have a bachelor's degree, I would always be, times change. My associate's degree, I got that 20 years ago. Even if I got a bachelor's degree 20 years ago, knew things have come since then. So I've always further my education. Be down to that.
That's great to hear. Derek, get us that info. I mean, I think we should hash that out sooner than later, like this year. Let's get something in place and apply that across the city. And not only give, Jamie, Val, all of our directors that opportunity, but, their reports and all the way down to where it makes sense for every individual employee. We've got 2 great institutions here in town that can really cover literally anything any employee is going to run into in the city. Let's take advantage of it for sure. Ms. Mealy.
And I think more to the point, the next time that we're hiring for a director of a position in the city, we want those promotions to come from within the department as much as possible. And not exclusively, but the more opportunity we provide people to attain more education that we would like to pay for directors of the department, the more opportunity we will have to hire.
Yeah.
To
And then Derek, so that the plan was to, put Jamie at the salary level that's budgeted, which I think is $98,000. Is that correct?
Zero the budget.
And I believe it's $98,000. I know this is, peanuts in the great scheme of a $30-some million budget, but I think when I look at you versus Heather, I know she had, outside of the education, she had more public sector experience, but I believe you do. I would be a little bit more comfortable, maybe kind of meeting in the middle to start, like mid-80s. If that's doable and acceptable by you, Mr. Livermore, and as we kind of go down that road and see you grow into that, get you up to where we had budgeted. Yeah, when I look at who we've had, well, get that kind of stuff, I think there's a little bit of a gap. I am confident she will get there faster than.
I mean, I would just, with that, just give market value, and her experience that she has. I mean, here be the MVP of the bank and all that, I would just respect doing that. I mean, I think she has a number of years and, just be appreciative of the job that she has done with the city and moving into this role. I think she brings that experience and the competence into it. So I would just, I think that would, not be an appreciation for the Mr. Livermore being here for the last year and a half. I mean, I'm okay with putting that, we don't talk about the education and that type of stuff. But, she has more, I don't remember how there's not on that route, but as far as her public sector, she has professional and corporate sector, I think that goes to Jane. Thank you guys. That would be my comments.
Any other comments or questions? Ms. Katz?
I can understand what you're saying, Ms. Campbell. We know our budget is coming up, and then that's all we have to do, but we're not gonna get it, until we don't get it. Is that what you're told that now?
Yeah, and that's fair. And look, I mean, in thinking about it on the fly here, I mean, this is really probably something that I couldn't follow for you. I mean, it's all so a thought piggybacking off of the earlier part of that conversation. So, Ms. Mealy.
No, I think you make a good point out of it. I think that was part of where I was going with it too, but I also think that the problem we're running into as a city is that the job market is kind of moving ahead without us too. And I don't know, that's happening to me in the private sector, that's happening to us, and that's happening across the country. And I don't know exactly how to catch up, but probably, I would suggest when we create a program to encourage our employees to attain further education, ideally through free opportunities with area colleges, or some sort of tuition reimbursement program, that we build into that a salary incentive to do that. And because I think that is part of the incentive, the ability to attain further income via attaining further education. But I also think, and I don't know, how we need to be figuring out.
Any other comments or questions on, excited to work with you in this capacity, truly.
Thank you for understanding.
All right, you can see no others, Mrs. Franklin, the vote please.
Mr. Allison,
Yeah.
Mr. Mackey,
Yes.
Mr. Pelisi,
Yes.
Mrs. Katz.
Yeah.
Ms. Mealy,
Yes.
Mr. Bider,
Yes.
Mr. Yoder.
Yes, motion passes 7-0. Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
We'll jump to item 8, Mrs. Franklin.
An ordinance and transfer ordinance number 13 in first reading.
Is there a motion in a second?
Yes, good evening once again. President Yoder, President Friday, Wisconsin Administration. This is This one actually goes back to 2019, related to an agreement in a home program that was flagged by HUD as the agreement was out of compliance. It's the repayment to HUD, and then it will actually be put back into our community development funds to use on a project. And so the question in finance was, because initially we have it out of the general fund, the emergency fund. Councilman Mealy had mentioned the legislative contingency, and then the conversation asked about could we use, since it's gone back into community development, could we use community development to repay these funds? And we looked into it, and the answer is no. HUD will allow us to use federal funds to repay these funds. I guess sort of penalty, so to speak, not necessarily penalty, but they're just not allowing us to use federal to federal for this right here. So we'll make this repayment, and then subsequently they'll allocate these funds for a separate project within our community development office. Really the gist of it. It's nothing negative.
Ms. Mealy, thank you for your slide. Ms. Mealy, this was a reading finance.
Yeah, nothing negative except for the fact that in addition to the budgetary expenditure we have for the community development department in last year's budget, we're adding another $36,000. Because this is and so you did actively discuss this with us, and there is no other, you talked to Cedar Cars about it.
No federal.
Yeah, it seems like one of the most frustrating things I have. We have to pay them back with our money and then be reimbursed with their money. That which is to say, hey, look, it's almost like they're paying us an monopoly money or something in return that we really can't spend it just only you know, income neighborhoods and on specific within the home funding, right? In this case, yeah, so home funding is particularly compared to other.
So we'll get the money back, but it's in a free home.
Right.
Right. Exactly.
Right.
So it becomes part of that 1.2 million which we've got in return home funds that are less obligated than current year home funds, but still have to remain for instead of being which is to say more than likely it goes to a show like
Habitat.
yeah, it goes, I think Habitat not only show
No. Yeah.
right. So it goes to a total of Habitat or it goes into the first time home buyer. Which isn't terrible, I'm not, you know, it's better than not getting it back. But it's a bummer because we're taking it from a place where we can use money for almost anything. And we're going into a place where we have very good options. But, as completely obtuse as that system seems to me, it is the one. And we don't have any place else in the budget from which we can take $40,000. Without putting it back. You know what I'm saying? We could take it out of the 50. We've already done it. Promise the legislative continue.
So we can't take this, say that again?
We're
We
not.
can't take this from somewhere that we can't put back. How did you say that?
We can't take it from anywhere else because we can't put it back. I think I obviously don't remember how I said it. I said it wrong, but that's what I meant. We won't be putting it back.
Well, yeah, no, and I get that, but I mean, even if, so, I mean, essentially, this is a one-time payment, right? Even a one-time payment's gotta come from something.
Right.
Right? So where's it coming from?
The emergency reserve fund according to the ordinance that we are.
There's nowhere else in the budget we can plan $36,000.
Right, I mean, there's legislative contingency possibly, enough really council discretion.
But we've already theoretically. Put those dollars.
Yeah. I mean, I would,
Now, we could use legislative contingency and then potentially have to take other money out.
I would like to, I would like the administrators to do a second look. I mean, I don't, me personally, I don't think, I mean, it's $36,000, I'm not raising these, I get that. I don't think this is an emergency. When we constitute, you know, when we had the discussions about establishing the fund, I mean, that was really, and hey, look, we have some crazy economic thing that we just lived through, COVID. We have a levy that we're trying to save money for, we certify. I mean, I you know, with all due respect to when this mistake was made, I initially, when I drafted, voted it, or didn't anticipate it being a catch-all for little mistakes here and there. But I need to sound harsh. So I would hate to set the precedent of pulling from this. In the, when that happens in the future, because it doesn't, we're people who make mistakes, right? That would be my ask. We have a month until we do second reading in August. So.
Yeah, we could look. Yeah, we can look between now and second reading.
Yeah. So I'll be interested to see what you come up with. So, I mean, there are probably not many good options, if there are any good options, but I would still prefer that, I mean, even if it's legislative contingency. I would prefer. What? Yeah.
I mean, technically speaking, you know, I would assume the process. 15.
Yeah.
Or, but, and that we are likely at the end of the year to realize the savings that are here or there, which would be very clear without taking from any, you know, they mean that we would have a bunch of numbers, but I'm not sure. But yes, I would say that it would see this demo, it should be somewhere else aside from here. So we will be thinking about it. So the request then is for the administration to find another source for 36,000.
And August 8th. Somewhere in there. Yes, another 3-4 weeks. Yeah. That would be my ask. And again, I know that this is by minute song, but I would hate to open those floodgates.
Council. Sorry, Ms. Fesler's, body language. Did you have something, you seem concerned about this? If you could,
Oh, okay.
sorry, I want to make sure that we're not screwing anything.
Nope, I just, there was a deadline in which we had to, send the money back, and we shared with them that we were going to request this through the council process, and that it would require 2 council meetings. So I was just asking Jamie if we needed to go back and perhaps let HUD know that the process may take longer, and she was explaining to me that how this works, so.
Yeah.
I think we're fine.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I think, you know, procedurally, Austin, tell me if I'm wrong here, I think we can approve this and amend it in second reading to reflect coming from a different source, and it.
That's what you
It
said.
doesn't change any time. It should
Yeah.
not.
But I don't think still we're going to.
It will be made regardless.
But on the other hand. So this is the statement one that would need to be in.
Why?
Because I don't believe we would have to do it. Well, I mean, it would be, I want to transfer them, but would it be, I'm trying to think.
I mean, at this point, it's gonna happen on the stage.
Yeah.
Second reading, resolution, it's not.
I think that it would be less efficient. Kind of need a process to be.
Yeah,
It would be-
If it's not budgeted, you have to transfer it through a process.
Right.
For-
Unless we
for the code. If it is,
Unless you can find within the line item that would be, that you approved in the budget.
Yeah.
That has money.
Community
That-
development. It's kind of-
Yeah.
City of unfortunately, right. But,
I mean, and if it doesn't, fine, if it does, we're on the docket for the 8th anyway. And frankly, I think for accounting, transparency purposes, it probably makes sense this way, even though it's my note. Sorry, that's a whole small out of but a good one. Any other comments or questions on this? Sorry, I'm sorry. No. All right. Hearing and seeing none, then this is Frank, on item 8, first reading.
Mr. Allison,
Yeah.
Mr. Mackey,
Yes.
Mr. Pelisi,
Yes.
Mrs. Katz,
Yes.
Ms. Mealy,
Yes.
Mr. Bider,
Yes.
Mr. Yoder,
Yes, motion passes 7-0. There's one, thank you. We'll jump to item 16, Mrs. Frank.
resolution authorizing the renewal purchase of net promotion pool platform VIA CBW-G.
Is there a motion in a second?
Second.
Mr. Black, good evening, sir.
Good evening, everyone. This resolution is just to renew the software that we use for the secure VPN from patrol cars back to the city. This is a yearly renewal. And this will come out of the services.
This does not go to committee. Any comments or questions on this?
Is there any change from our yearly rate from last year to this year?
Last year's purchase was about 5,500 because there were some other services involved with it that we don't need to have done this year.
Any other comments or questions? Hearing and seeing none, Mrs. Franklin, motion, please.
Mr. Allison,
Yeah.
Mr. Pelisi,
Yes.
Mrs. Katz,
Yes.
Ms. Mealy,
Yes.
Mr. Bider,
Yes.
Mr. Yoder,
Yes, motion passes 7-0. We'll move to item 17.
excuse me, that's 6-0.
6-0, sorry. Item 17.
Just for the record. Resolution authorizing the purchase of cellular services from T-Mobile.
Is there a motion in the second? So moved. Second. Mr. Black.
Good evening again. I was approached some time ago by T-Mobile to look at their pricing and so forth for services. We're currently paying last month's bill was just under $3,700 with Verizon. And they have a month-to-month for the first 24 months of $2,300 for the same amount of service we're currently carrying. And they also have an additional $134,000 for that over the next 24 months, which would bring our monthly cost down to $880.73 for the same service that same number of devices that we're carrying currently. I did reach out to Verizon as well. They were able to come back with a price that was basically $500 less than what they're giving us.
Thank you, Mr. Black. Any comments or questions on this item? Mr. Folsey?
Good evening. So refreshing, we're going to switch and save money.
Lots of
Well, thank you.
all new phones, all new devices for everybody. Sean Bastion did a test in one of the patrol cars has been using it for about 2 weeks now. And he did a test around the city, and the worst reception he had was right down here. And that was 2 out of 4 hours. Everywhere else he had full service throughout the municipality.
That was going to be my next question to you, is the coverage.
Any other comments or questions? You can see none. Mrs. Franklin, item 17.
Mr. Allison,
Yeah.
Mr. Mackey,
Yes.
Mr. Pelisi,
Yes.
Mrs. Katz.
Yes.
Ms. Mealy.
Yes.
Mr. Bider,
Yes.
Mr. Yoder,
Yes, motion passes 7-0. We'll move to item 18.
resolution authorizing purchase of wireless connectivity from River Valley Internet to connect Trade and Transit Department of Public Works.
There a motion, second.
Second.
Mr. Black.
Good evening once again. This resolution is to provide wireless Ethernet connection between currently Streets and Parks and Trade and Transit Center 1. Installation fee of $500, and then month of $600. This would get us off of the fiber connection that we're currently using that runs through our ETA, which is problematic whenever we try to change something on their equipment. It interrupts our equipment as well. This would serve that completely. Plus, it would also set us up if we were to move locations, we only need to do one side because it is a wireless radio connection, whether it be here at the old city hall, somewhere else that's, you know, it's just the $500 fee of moving that one piece of equipment.
Any comments or questions? Here you see none, Mrs. Frank, on item 18.
Mr. Allison,
Yes.
Mr. Mackey,
Yes.
Mr. Pelisi,
Yes.
Mrs. Katz. Yes. Ms. Miller. Yes. Mr. Biden,
Yes.
Mr. Yoder.
Yes, motion passes. Thank you. Right,
Thank you all.
we'll move to item 19, Mrs. Frank.
Resolution authorizing the award of services agreement to Brick Design Group for engineering services to construct improvements at Elm Park.
Is there a motion and second?
Move.
Second.
Mr. Scott, welcome. Last but not least.
Good evening, President Yoder, members of council, Mayor Slaughter. I have a resolution to present for consideration. This resolution authorizes the award of professional engineering services to Bricks Design Group, a local Williamsport firm, to design improvements at Elm Park. The improvements will include resurfacing of tennis courts, converting 2 courts into pickleball courts, the installation of ADA accessible restrooms, van accessible parking space, parking lot, and walking paths in the softball complex. Task 1 includes design specifications, meetings, and bidding for a fee of $30,504. Task 2 includes construction supervision for a fee of $2,856, which gives a total lump sum not to exceed figure of $33,360. This project, which was engineering and construction, is all funded by CDBG funds.
Mr. Scott, this did not go to committee as well. Any comments or questions, Ms. Mueller?
Just, so when the bid that we did to resurface all, what I thought was all the tennis courts in the city did not cover these purposes. Okay, and why didn't we at the time?
Same with the budget at that time. We should, that would have taken us away from what we had allocated.
Okay. Did we ever get any of the reimbursement for those?
I think we had some out, but you get something for them.
Okay. I would mention that. Okay, yeah, just looked at it at first blush and thought, I thought we were doing research and just going to get.
You know, these courts I've been out there on, there's a lot of, some pretty cracking issues with them.
Yeah, can I ask a really random question? How much use do our tennis courts see in the city? I mean, obviously, we're converting 2 of them to pickleball courts, so I presume that we've seen heavier usage of pickleball courts than well, I know that we've seen heavier usage.
Definitely heavier use of pickleball, but the tennis folks definitely are out there and they're pushed back with sort of this simultaneous
Turf war.
yeah, sort of.
Don't want to attend it either.
No, right. The pickleball folks literally said, like what happened out of Northbrook, can you convert all of them to pickleball? The tennis folks said, please don't convert all of them to pickleball, we do draw the tennis. So Elm is probably one of our more heavier used tennis courts. In Shaw Park, there's a women's group that plays there. I forget. Tuesday, Thursday morning. I think I believe the dates, but that's tennis and they play out there in Shaw. So tennis does it gets used. I know pickleball is rapidly growing, and it's been rapidly growing for a few years now, number of years. But there are still tennis players, and especially if you drive by now. And Brandon gets heavy use too. Actually, Brandon gets really heavy use. So So anyway, yeah, it's not, I don't have, knowledge on that, but there's definitely use, there's pickleball courts are packed. There's an app that I learned of where you can see who's playing where pickleball. I don't know if tennis has that or not, but in real time, you can see if the courts are available in an area, in other areas, wherever you go. So it's an interesting. I've never heard the person in town. So. It's fun. I mean, we have I was just going to say, I saw him turn his mic. Right, I'll let Councilman Mack be on the floor.
I was just curious.
Are you a pickleball player, John?
Big time, yeah.
Yes. I'm trying to get the into it.
Sorry, man, I don't. I'm quite good at it.
Yeah, he started your league.
Yeah. Williamsport Pickleball Association. That remains to be seen. Could there be a happy medium there? It's actually just outside Philadelphia, for the 4th of July holiday, playing pickleball on tennis courts that had both sets of lines painted on full-size pickleball tennis, net. But within that tennis ball, within the tennis court lines, there were also the outline of the pickleball court. I mean, I don't know what the cost of painting lines is the paint, right? I mean, how much more could paint cost? I appreciate a regulation size pickleball court, but if the next available option, playing at a tennis court, with pickleball court painted inside of it, I would rather do that than have to drive to Shore Park, because it is extremely difficult when the weather's nice to find a place to play pickleball in winter. And that's coming from somebody who is constantly playing, 80% of the time I find myself having to drive to the local stop to play pickleball. I would much rather stay in Williamsport to do that. There's just not enough places to play. If you go to Shore Park on any given night during the summer, it's packed until 10:30, 11 o'clock at night, with people playing. There's people standing there waiting to get on the courts. I mean, and I don't, now I'm not disagreeing with that players are out there. I don't see that level of tennis being played in the city. So, and I'm not suggesting we get rid of tennis, but what I'm saying, there seems to be like we can have a happy medium. I don't know.
Yes,
We can look into.
Yeah, oh, definitely. Yeah, we can look at that for sure.
I'm saying I want to keep the 2 pickleball courts.
Right.
I prefer to play on
Right.
specific court pickleball, but the next best option is the tennis court with the lines painted. That's
not confusing. I mean, I don't play.
I mean, it's not optimal, but I mean, it's not optimal. It's, it's not way you can differentiate.
Yeah.
Sure, they get different colors.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, it seems to be a cheap alternative to youth.
Yeah, what do you do with that?
Then that's the same thing. It's just you play within the boundaries. It's the same weight, same everything.
Yeah, we can present those options, we can just have them look at.
I'm saying we keep the 2 dedicated courts.
Yeah. I mean,
The rest of tennis or flip flop.
Yeah.
And how much 2 tennis?
Yeah, but anyways, we can do that, yeah.
Scats.
You should have been here when Gay campaign, I put down basketball courts in Memorial Park and put a pickleball courts up. And this was before anybody knew what pickleball was. I wanted to show how serious I think they have to. And I have never, no, I would have been angry at 1 or 2 other times. And he deserved it every time. But I remained disappointed that he was slightly right about this.
And I do have a question about where the bathrooms are gonna be located in Elk Park to get back to more pertinent information. They're gonna be inside of the fence where the bathrooms are currently located. They're gonna tear them down.
So Scott has a really good idea where he wants, kind of like, maybe he wanted the gate there now.
Yeah.
He's gonna want, just separate sides and the grand entrance type of, the whole kind of picturing right now.
Because, and that's more to Councilman Mackey's point that he's brought up several times. We have these parks, we have these facilities for the community to go use. They don't have access to the bathrooms.
And obviously, we don't want people wandering onto Elm Park and just using that without any kind of supervision or knowledge of the city, because of the money that we're putting into it.
I think his vision is, we will have access from the tennis court side, but we won't be able to get access into the softball complex. The doors will be locked. You know, those guys at PIAA really likes the softball complex because it's kind of isolated. That's why it's used for districts, playoffs. That still remain like that.
Ms. Mealy.
Yeah, I actually had, I very much appreciate it. I felt for you that we don't provide enough services like restrooms and water access at our parks in the city. Although it was much more concerned to me, where there are a lot more likely to be a lot of minors involved. Because like you have kids who can't drive, so they walk to the park and now they have to pee, and that's obviously both contributing to some issues with the park. My kids have peed in the park. But also, so anyway, I guess, how are we looking at keeping them clean? And is there a way that we can try to create the same utilities in other parts of the area, especially ones that have a heavier kid population?
All right, question for Scott. He's got some opinions on restrooms, just as the maintenance and vandalism that happens in them, and he's got concerns about that.
And I agree with him. I mean, it is a major issue, but it's also, you know, for instance, like when I take my kids to the playground in Williamsport, at the park, they have like 2 full restrooms and like the water bottle filling station and yada, yada, yada. And I just think that is something desperately needed, especially in a public playground. So that's not exactly what we're looking at here, but we're going to be a playground across the street. So that might be the secondary concern. How are we addressing adequate crosswalk if we're putting restrooms on one side and not the other? But anyway, there's things that I think, these aren't questions you guys need to answer right now, but things I think we should be contemplating as part of this initial part of the study is what we do with restrooms. And if you're gonna have kids trying to cross 4th Street to get water or to use the restroom on the other side of the street, how are people doing that safely?
The last question I have about the design for the tennis court area. Does that have lights on it currently? Are there plans for lights on it? This time?
And they're not with this.
I will say, I understand. Brandon, being there for softball games with my kids this year, those courts were being used every night we were there. Those lights were on. But so it does get some extended use out of it, and we're looking to have nicer amenities. Obviously, the Northway Road Park, Short Park out there that has lights. So we need to use it much longer periods of time, especially if the fall.
So the council won't be able to point things or not, but we have discussed this and it's just comments. For grant. But I would agree that the size is nice amendment.
Any other comments or questions? Here to see none. Mrs. Frank on item 19.
Mr. Allison,
Yes.
Mr. Mackey.
Yes.
Mr. Pelisi,
Yes.
Mrs. Katz.
Yes.
Ms. Mealy,
Yeah.
Mr. Biden,
Yes.
Mr. Yoder.
Yes. Motion passes 7-0.
Thank you.
We'll jump to item 23, certificate of appropriateness from HARB. We have 1 at 849 West 3rd Street. Now, no public. Is there a motion in a second?
So move.
Second.
Motion in a second. Looks like replacement for your porch, stairs, porches, railings, suite code. It's included in the packet. I will admit, I don't really know much about this one, aside from what's in front of us. So, any comments or questions? Yeah.
My assumption is that it would probably come back to farm and have to take the courthouse from there, or the for the porch.
Questions? Hearing seen none, Mrs. Frank, on item 23.
Mr. Allison.
Yeah.
Mr. Mackey.
Yes.
Mr. Pelisi.
Yes.
Mrs. Katz.
Yes.
Ms. Mealy.
Yes.
Mr. Biden.
Yes.
Mr. Yoder.
Yes. Motion passes 7-0. Item 24, except for filing finance committee meeting minutes from December 5th, 23, January 16th, 2024, economic revitalization from October 25th, 2023, controllers report from April 24, water and sanitary authority meeting minutes from May 22nd, 2024. Is there a motion and a second?
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any comments or questions on the minutes? Hearing and seeing none, Mrs. Frank, on item 24.
Mr. Allison.
Yeah.
Mr. Mackey.
Yes.
Mr. Pelisi.
Yes.
Mrs. Katz.
Yes.
Ms. Mealy.
Yes.
Mr. Biden.
Yes.
Mr. Yoder.
Yes, motion passes 7-0. Jim's put it in.
No.
Think so.
Got it.
Item 25, announcements. Our next regularly scheduled city council meeting will be on Thursday, August 8th at 7 p.m. Our meeting in 2 weeks is canceled due to a scheduling conflict. It will be right here on third floor Trade Transit 2. Upcoming meetings, Tuesday, July 16th at 6:30 p.m. is hard. Wednesday, July 17th at 10 a.m. Electric property. Thursday, July 18th at 10:30 zoning hearing board. Wednesday, July 24th, 11:30 a.m. redevelopment authority. Monday, August 5th, 12 p.m. planning commission. Tuesday, August 6th, 11:30 a.m. public safety. 1 p.m. finance committee, 2:30 p.m. public works. Wednesday, August 7th, 9 a.m. economic revitalization, and Thursday, August 8th is our next city council meeting at 7 p.m. Any comments from members of city council? Comments from members of the administration? Comments from members of the public? The clarifications on agenda items from the news media that's here. Take a motion and a second for adjournment.
So moved.
Second. A second, all in favor?
Aye.
Thanks for sticking with us for a longer meeting. Have a great July. We'll see you.